Tig, bring the people some good times.
I have something that's so. I've been wanting to talk to you about it for 2 weeks, and it so doesn't fit the channel or anything.
Then that is a great reason for us to do it.
Okay.
It's
so off the off.
That's fine. So we're gonna. No, never mind. I was gonna go political.
Oh no!
I was gonna be like, we're gonna talk about
no politics.
Yeah, of course.
I want to talk about
Oh,
UFOs.
that's a great one.
Specifically, well, not specifically. There's no specifics, but just because of the buzz lately, and I know that me and you are both into science fiction, and I love, everything about science, and then space. We're both huge fans of, space-related things.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of space-related things, this is wonderful. I had to write an obituary today for Sheldon Reynolds, who was a guitarist and vocalist for the Commodores and Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it turns out that he passed away a few days ago, as of when we're filming this.
Tina Turner passed away, so that means there's a third waiting out there.
It's Jim Brown.
Oh yeah, Jim Brown died. Okay.
But anyway, as I'm doing the research to so I can talk about his life and all that, come to find that he had a huge interest in astronomy, and he was an associate editor for Astronomy magazine.
Oh, really?
Which I think is super cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like, he was like, wait, the guitarist for Earth, Wind and Fire is a freaking editor for an astronomy magazine? Like, that's fantastic. I love when musicians and other like sort of entertainers and entertainment artists have this like totally out of the blue area of expertise that has nothing to do with what they're into.
Isn't there a
Brian May of Queen is very famously like a...
Okay, he's like a physicist, not a physicist, but like an astrophysicist.
Yeah, PhD astrophysicist. He's done research on that's what star matter and stuff like that. Rod Stewart is famously a gigantic... This is true.
Okay.
He's a gigantic model railroad geek.
Oh, okay.
He's a huge model railroad geek. He has like an enormous setup and
that's pretty funny
and stuff like that. Like I find stuff like that so great.
I agree.
So space and UFOs.
Yeah. So there's been all the hubbub about UFOs lately and all that nonsense, and I was wondering. Oh, look at that baby can. I know that I'm like you, where I like to look at things. For instance, like if I see something in the sky, I don't immediately go, well, that must be an alien or that must be Bigfoot. Like, right. We both fall on the try to make sense of things. It's got to be a logical answer. There's got to be a logical answer for this. That's just how my brain works. That's how your brain works. We don't fall into the category of like everything is hocus pocus.
I will say that I was once, if not full-fledged, I was either very close or was a believer at one point, where I kind of felt like, well, most of these, I'm sure a lot of these or most of them are just nothing, but some of them, which I can't, because I can't figure them out, it must mean that, but I'm no longer in that camp anymore, which isn't to say that I think they're all easily explainable. They're not.
It's not to say that I don't think that there has to be aliens in the sense of in the universe.
Right.
Like, I believe that just mathematically there has to be some kind of life form, because it doesn't make any sense for there not to be. It's illogical to think that there's not something.
It's the Fermi Paradox.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's I have pretty much zero doubt that there's life elsewhere in the universe, and it's very, very likely that there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. Just by pure numbers, there's life somewhere else. Now, the question is there life elsewhere that is both intelligent enough to develop the technology to cross the interstellar void, which means
they'd have to travel faster than light.
It's an incredible undertaking. And they would have to exist at the same time that we're existing now.
And they'd have to know, in the vastness of the universe, this, like, how do they even know this speck ball exists on that part of it? You know what I mean? Like, without having some kind of machine that's scanning the entire universe for like life from wherever they are.
Right. Yeah. And,
it's not like it'd be like just driving through the Rocky Mountains and going like, oh, they somehow found the cabin.
And even that wouldn't wouldn't work. Like, let's say scanning the, because like right now, for instance, the fact that we can now detect extrasolar planets in other solar systems and stuff like that. And that technology will only continue to improve over the decades. But even if, like, let's say intelligent life elsewhere in another solar system, in another part of our own galaxy, has technology that's 100 times better than that, they would still need to be doing that at better than light speeds for it to even be relevant. We have only been pumping out signals into the universe for
the 20s.
for a little over 100 years.
Yeah.
So
weak signals that get weaker.
Yeah. So detecting our signals is not in the cards. They would have had to maybe seen that this is a planet that has the possibility of bearing life. That, in theory, they could have seen a very long time ago. So maybe some old civilization.
But they would have seen dinosaurs. Like, yeah, there's just so many. It doesn't make sense for, someone could be like, well, they have a powerful telescope that could see, the Earth from where we are. Okay, and we're not there when they look at us because the distance for the light to get to their telescope.
Right, they're going to be
means
seeing
they're
our
going to
past.
see, they're going to see dinosaurs roaming around. Be like, there's dinosaurs on that planet.
They look delicious.
Yeah, or maybe nothing at all, because it could be a billion.
Yeah.
It could be, the 500 million mark or whatever.
Now, to be clear, I don't think that the idea of alien visitation to Earth is impossible.
No,
it's not impossible.
It's improbable.
It is very improbable. Not possible. Scientifically, it's possible. However, also scientifically, like, the chances of it are so slim.
Right.
Unless you're talking about like interdimensional beings, which is now where the alien enthusiast community has gone, because I think a lot of people are starting to realize, like, actually the Bigfoot community has done the same thing, right? Because
now Bigfoot, sometimes people say, is like interdimensional being.
Right. Because eventually you reach a point where our own technology and our surveillance technology and so on has reached a point that you would think that there would be a preponderance of evidence that points to these being real, but with no remains and blah, blah,
the
blah,
fact
blah, blah.
that you would need a certain amount of them in order to survive as a species.
Yeah.
It's not just one dude wandering around for 400 years.
Yeah,
There'd have to be a certain, I think there'd have to be at least 500.
Exactly.
At least. And
so with still nothing in the way of like actual concrete verifiable evidence, now that the cryptozoology community, the cryptid community, has now decided, like, well, Bigfoot's extra dimensional, like it pops in and out of dimensions. So I think that's one of the reasons why with those kind of communities, cryptozoology and UFOs and all that, which I have a huge interest in it.
Yeah, so do I.
I'm just not a believer. I approach it with some
right.
skepticism, and I think that's one of the reasons why I began more and more over the years to become a skeptic, is because I saw very clearly that there's this constant invention of like new ways to keep the belief alive, because
science is catching up with the bullshit. Not the bullshit. I don't want to say bullshit, because you have to have ideas. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, people, but yeah, once science says, "Oh, look, we kind of can check this off the list," it's probably not that.
Yeah.
They have to go, well, then we have to shift gears and try to find
another
way to explain why it's real.
There's a constant moving of the goalposts. And the UFOs are like that as well. I back when I still believed more, I started thinking like when cameras on cell phones started to become a thing. I was like, okay,
yeah, here we go. We're gonna get to see it.
We're gonna see some shit now.
No, and even when you go on, like, even the military footage or the footage that people go, look at this, is amazing, you're still like, it's filmed on a potato.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Why can't you see this?
Yeah. Now I'm not saying that there aren't a few pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There's a few that I'm just like,
I agree.
I don't know what in the F is that. But they're few and far between. The ones that are genuinely convincing, in so much as where it's like, I absolutely cannot explain that. And usually the better ones, it's multiple sources of the same event.
Right.
Which is rare.
Now, I can admit that there are two occasions that I still have locked in my brain, one that happened years ago and one that happened recently, where I can't explain what I saw.
Ah.
So I'm not saying that they're aliens, but there are 2 occasions where I witnessed something and I was like, the most recent thing I actually was doing research online because I was like, what could this, like, what did I just see right there? Because I can't figure out. And my wife actually happened to be out there at the same time. And we were both like, what the fuck's that?
All right. If we're going to go that route, you got to give me 1 second. I have to be better prepared for what we're about to discuss.
Oh, God,
One second. Tig.
Yeah, man.
Was it aliens?
I don't know, man.
Was it aliens? Tell me about what you saw, man. Tell me about the aliens. I wish it was more poofy so I could be that guy.
So the 2 situations I had, the one was I was like 23 and I was driving back at 3 a.m. from working at the movie theater. And back in those days, I would drive home down the Parkway South, and there'd be nobody on the Parkway. It was like a September or October, and it was 3 a.m. And you know how like when you're getting between the one section, it's just a straight run, so you can just see the sky. And from the left to the right, a black triangle with like a light in the middle, like a red-white light, just flew over quietly. Now, I'm in the car, my windows aren't open, so quietly, but just flew over, and I remember like getting down and looking up to see, like, what the fuck, is it a plane? Because realistically, you'd be like, well, maybe it's a plane and the lights aren't blinking, right? Because it's the triangle, it's like a light in the front and the sides. But that flew over, and I just always was like, oh, that's fucking weird. And then I remember people always talking about the black triangles that they've seen flying around. But I think because we live near a lot of military bases all in the area, especially one famous one, I think that it probably was just like a stealth something.
I mean, the black triangle configuration is a pretty common one that people see.
Which again, I feel like it probably was just
to the
like
point where it started to show up in like movies and shows and stuff like that. But that is one that is relatively easily explained as like aircraft testing. Now, obviously, of course, it doesn't have the lighting that they're supposed to.
But because they're testing it,
who's to say if it's like some secret shit?
Yeah, I know it could have just been a plane.
Don't know. That's also one of the like the difficulties is that like sometimes in the moment you don't notice the common details that would be the tell. Like maybe for whatever reason you didn't spot the one red warning light because you were fixated on something else, or like who knows, whatever. Or it was some weird ass shit.
The second one, I had a witness with me, so this was good.
This is even better.
This one still, like, I think I know what it is, but it just is weird. I was sitting out back, and there's turkey vultures that always catch the vortex of air above our house.
Right.
It's been that way for years. So I always watch them like go around and around. They're like about 1,000 feet up or whatever. And I'm just watching them, and my wife comes out, like I'm just fucking dicking around watching them, and my wife comes out and she's sitting there, and from behind the house, this white ball just comes like flying over the house, goes in between like these turkey vultures flying around. The turkey vultures just fucking bolt.
Interesting.
And then it just like went back, but it came this way. Turkey vultures are like boo, and then it just like went back this way. And why I didn't fucking like walk into the front, I didn't have my phone on me, but why I didn't walk in the front to see where the fuck it went, I just more was just both like we were just watching it, and I was just like, oh, maybe it, and I was like, it's probably a drone, but it was just a white ball with no, and judging how high it was, it must have been, it had to be fucking big, like for it to be, like it wasn't like only like the size of a basketball, because
it moved at a pretty good rate.
It moved in like, Yeah, it had to be doing like not like 1,000 miles, like because it was just like a short distance and a short distance.
Right.
But moving, not like flying in like a. But drones are pretty quick too.
Yeah, drones are quick, but like moving faster than like it couldn't have been like say a Chinese lantern or something like that.
No, it wasn't a balloon.
Right.
Because it went in, stopped, and then went back this way. So at first I was like, oh, a fucking balloon, like a huge like weather balloon. But it wouldn't have changed course. Like it was being propelled. It was being propelled that way and propelled that way. Like it stopped and then went back.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's weird because that means it's not like the wind caught it and then like you could tell it was it wasn't being blown.
Right.
So I went online after because I was like, I'm searching. I'm like, well, do they sell drones that like are? Can you buy like a round balloon drone? And the only thing I could find was, you can get like a blow up drone. It's like a ball, and I guess it has like a propeller at the bottom or something. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe somebody around here just like bought this expensive. But the one that they showed was only the size of like the drum set, and this had to be big. If it was only the size of the drum set, and it was a couple thousand feet up, it would have been.
Was it a clear day, a sunny day?
It was perfectly blue.
So if you know you pick a white sphere, maybe on a clear sunny day. Maybe just looks a little larger than it,
it
actually was.
I still think it probably was a drone. Again, could have been like a military drone someone was flying around.
Like, and I mean, if it was actually within proximity, those turkey vultures are big. Like, yeah, those are not small, but they're
like 6 feet. They're like 5-6 foot wingspan.
Oh yeah, like and if one was sitting here, I mean, it'd be almost as tall as the drum kit. So if it looked like comparable in size to them, then that's a pretty big,
the only reason I'm convinced I'm not convinced it was an alien. Like I said, this is more about like an unidentified thing that I couldn't figure out. Was that I did notice when it went in by the turkey vultures I did notice when they scattered, it like did that. It like moved,
which means it was susceptible to air currents.
Right. So I was like, oh, okay. So it was like. That's when I was like, oh, it must be some kind of balloon thing that's being controlled by something. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was weird because I've been every day when I go outside now, I'm always waiting because I'm like, oh, maybe someone has one and they're going to fly it over the house again or something.
Yeah.
But I never ever saw it again. And I just thought it was weird because I didn't understand what the fuck it was.
Yeah, I would guess probably drone related, but interesting though, because right, because in that moment you're like, what am I seeing? Like, what is this?
Yeah, like at first I'm like, and then I was like, what the fuck? Like we both stood up. That's when I knew it was weird because we both stood up and like we're watching it, and then we watched it go away, and I was just like, the fuck was that? And
you can still say unconfirmed. I mean, you don't. It's just a guess to say like probably drone related, but that's just a guess. Who knows?
Who's to know?
And the thing is, with intelligent life evolving elsewhere. It could be any size. They could have been small aliens.
That'd be amazing.
Really small ones.
They get here and they're like, oh, it's fucking Planet of Giants.
There's a great Twilight Zone episode where that's exactly what happens is like a little alien robot lands like this big and terrorizes a woman, like, she's like in her farmhouse and stuff. And she's like dealing with this little thing that's like zapping her with electricity and stuff. Yeah, and it's just like little alien guy. So I think probably that's what that was.
That seems the most logical answer.
When I was, I don't know, 19 or 20, something like that, a couple of us are driving, heading back into town. And things weren't very built up, of course, in the area back then. So we're sort of driving through what was at the time mostly woods. And we see in the distance, just over the tree line, a cigar-shaped, glowing white thing.
Really?
True. Just over the tree line, we're like, what the hell is that? We lose sight of it because, the road's curving and stuff like that. We come around again. There it is again, and it's moving. And we're getting closer, and it's like, it's big. Whatever it was big. It's glowing. Like, we could see it from, God, when we saw it, I think I would estimate that we were probably a good 5 to 6 miles from it.
Oh, geez.
and it's like
So it was huge. It had to be real big.
going over the tree line again. Glowing white at night. This big cigar-shaped object. Not to belabor the story. Long story short, it was a glow-in-the-dark blimp.
Ah, you found out it was.
Yeah, it was at the taking off, like doing night flights from the from the base, and it
that's
glows in the dark.
That's what made me think that this thing was the same. The white ball was something military, because I noticed sometimes driving the back roads, the big giant blimp they have, like they have like a military blimp that kind of pops out every once in a while. Mm-hmm. It's like real, but it's odd shaped.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so they're doing like
I did end up seeing it not too long later, like a day flight.
That must have been
but weird. but for a bit we were like, what the hell is that? Like, what the hell is that?
That's amazing.
And I think I remember talking to some of the local police, and they got like a rash of calls about it and stuff like that too. We used to go back and like check out the aircraft tests back there though, because there was because it, like, that particular base is known for testing stuff. It's a kind of a crazy subject, and again, while I wouldn't I certainly wouldn't tag myself as a believer at this point, there's still often there've been like some either very compelling stories or some compelling images where it's still. There's one out of a very well-known one that took place off of a military base in England. I want to say it was in the 1970s, which supposedly involved a landing and actual physical evidence of the landing on the ground. A lot of witnesses. It's one of the better known stories, and I'm blanking on some of the details to actually like say what it was. But it's one of the most cited ones as like one of the unexplainable. Yeah,
like
ones.
I like those. When cops or military people say they saw something, I tend to believe those a little bit more, simply because I'm like, they're usually more afraid to come out and say they saw something.
Right.
Whereas people, like the ones you hear about, like in South America or whatever, where there was a bunch of school kids and they supposedly an alien landed, and I'm like, all right, kids, like that didn't happen. Sounds like bullshit kind of story.
Yeah, a lot of stuff like that. It actually reminds me one thing that I've long wanted to do, but just never have. Largely because I think it might be dangerous for me to do.
Oh God!
This is I've thought about getting myself an alien costume.
And
at night being like on the side of the road, like in a wooded road, and just like when cars are coming, like moving, sort of like come out a little bit in the woods.
Someone would hit you.
But the thing is, I'd either get hit or like some piney would stop and like shotgun blast me or something like
Definitely.
that. So yeah, even here in New Jersey, probably a bad idea to do. And definitely, if for anyone who's living in like Texas or like don't do that. It's a bad idea.
I feel like it makes more sense that we were back on the topic of us saying like they're not coming from the universe if there's aliens. I feel it makes more sense that they're either us.
That's a theory you see quite a bit, that they're
like that kind of theory, like they're like.
Either
we're from the future humans or something, or they got off and they came back, or some shit like that kind of thing, or which always entices me, the shit living in the ocean that we just fucking. But we have all that like sonar with subs at this point, where I feel like wouldn't some country be tracking that shit? Like at this point, we can basically scan a large portion of the ocean with submarines.
One of the theories that you see from people who get like real mystical about it, which was kind of touched on in M. Night Shyamalan's Signs,
right.
Is that they're demons, and it's basically like they're it's the same creatures from the Bible and that sort of thing.
Story.
The interdimensional thing has become like a more frequent sort of explanation from them. Again, like we touched on earlier, I think probably driven in part by our better understanding of what it would actually take to cross interstellar space. So that one comes up a lot more. I've seen that idea of like that it's basically just us, but visiting ourselves or monitoring ourselves and that kind of thing. Though I wonder how much of that theory has just sprang from science fiction stories that have done that many times over the years.
That just scientifically has a lot of problems too, because how are you interact? Like, okay, so you figured out time travel somehow, but then you're interacting or observe, like that causes a lot of issues.
Yeah, and those ideas were first coming around in the pulp days of early pulp science fiction and stuff like that.
So it just it's in the psyche, and then people are just regurgitating that idea that's just coming from an.
And took it like from fiction to all of a sudden like
now it's real.
Of course, in conspiracy circles, they have there's this idea that they refer to as predictive programming, and this is when the powers that be, in conjunction with Hollywood and all the rest, purposely plant the seeds for something years ahead of time so that we'll be ready.
So we're ready for this.
So one of the big theories is that like Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind wasn't just this story that Steven Spielberg wanted to tell. He made it on behest of the government in order to prepare us for either, and it depends on which faction you listen to, either the fake alien landing that was going to be used to take away everyone's rights and so on and so forth, or for the revelation that aliens were real and so on and so forth. So this was meant to, meant to like sort of begin prepping us for that.
It sounds a little paranoid.
Yeah, there was what was it? A Super Bowl commercial, I think it was, from some years back, a while back. And in the Super Bowl commercial, it was a Budweiser commercial, and like one of the Clydesdales was like after a parade or something like that, and the Clydesdale was like running through empty streets after the parade to get back to its other Clydesdales.
Right. I actually remember that video.
Remember the commercial?
The commercial.
And so, on conspiracy forums, they were like, "Oh, they're this is predictive programming. They're trying to like prep us for martial law. Martial law is coming in the next couple of years. This is what's going to happen."
I sort of feel bad for people like that. I used to just be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But now I'm like, something's wrong with you.
I really love I love conspiracy stuff. I love conspiracy theories.
Do I, but
I've read tons of the books by many of the prominent authors.
And I would say both growing up early internet. I mean, that's all you did was fall down that rabbit hole when the internet first came out.
I've read those forums for years. I've lurked on them for years. Not so much anymore for a bunch of reasons. One thing that I've seen in a lot of these people is that they're just incapable of accepting the idea that not everything is a sort of planned and connected thing with an explanation. Like random things do just happen, or people really do things independently, or people really do things without it being like a part of this vast agenda.
You know why though? They think that because it's scary.
Yeah,
it's actually scarier to think we're just on a fucking ball, man.
That's exactly
and this shit's just going on, than to think, no, this is all part of some crazy plan and they're all planning this shit.
They feel the need to order everything and explain everything. Everything has to have an explanation. Everything needs to fall in its proper place. And like, yeah, because they're frightened of like just facing what
could possibly be the truth.
Yeah, which is like, yeah, no, we are just monkeys on a rock, and like in some sense, I don't think that this is all meaningless.
No.
In the large
text,
grand sense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and like the big expansive long grand sense. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, eventually this will all be nothing and will be forgotten and all that. And okay, that's what it is.
What do you think the most realistic scenario is for, like, do you think that like everything that's going on, like when you like the government videos where they claim that they get them on radar and they can't explain them, footage?
I would never presume to give an all-encompassing answer, because I think that's just foolhardy to do, of course. So all I could say is I don't know. I think that the vast majority of sightings are just people not knowing what they're seeing and mistaking things, seeing a street light in a weird way, or seeing, seeing light
like
reflected
ball
in odd
lightning
ways
or something. Yeah, some like
sometimes natural
aerial,
phenomenon.
Yeah,
So that's what the vast majority of them are. And then there's a small handful where I'm not willing to venture an answer because I just don't know. I haven't looked into it for a while yet, but I do recall that there was, I want to say it was in the late 90s, maybe it was the early aughts, but I think it was the late 90s. There were some very well-known sightings outside of Phoenix.
yeah, but then
what was allegedly a huge craft. Could have been stuff flying in formation. Who knows? Whatever. I always felt like that's one of the more compelling recent ones. But I also haven't looked into it for a while, so it might have since that time. People might have looked into it further, and maybe it has a good explanation now. I don't know.
It's just hard for me to think any of it is real in this because 99.9% of the time it's lights.
Yeah.
At night, and it's hard for me to believe that if you're an alien and you're just observing, you have lights on the ship. Like, if you're flying around at night, wouldn't you just fly in the dark? Like, why do you have lights on?
Yeah,
Isn't it just obvious?
Well, yeah, I mean,
unless it's
and unless anyone says so they see, no,
or it's some kind of like, well, their propeller system, like they couldn't figure, like they traveled billions of miles through space, but they can't seem to turn the, it's glowing because of the mechanism inside.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give me that bullshit, fine, but realistically, like, why do you have lights on your ship?
Yeah, I think we all many times in our life we see something, we're like, what the hell is that? And most of the time, you might realize what it is like immediately after or something like that. But if you don't have that realization, you're always gonna have like a what the hell was that kind of thing. And I think for the most part, that's generally what's happening to people. You're sitting in your backyard and somebody flies a drone over that you've never seen that type of drone before. So you're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's and that kind of stuff is long happened.
And it's fun to I love that there is a community online that has. My problem with the online community is it's fun to speculate.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the subject in first, because I know we both love the topic of it and like reading about it and being like, oh shit, what the fuck is this? But the fun part for me is digging for all the information and finding out, like, and then being excited that maybe it will be like, oh fuck, like this seems really cool. It just so happens that most times I get to the end of it and I go, oh, so
again, like, despite being a non-believer, I'm an enthusiast. I don't know that we've ever shown it on the channel. Maybe we have, but like I have a vast collection of
we did the books
of like UFO. No, not those, of like a book specifically about UFO sightings.
Oh no, we didn't. Which would have been we should.
And books by UFO experts and so on and so forth. My favorites, incidentally, are the ones by Jim Mars, double R Mars. Alien Agenda, I think, is I think probably his best on that. Alien Agenda by Jim Mars is very good. And then there's a big thick blue one called Above Top Secret by, I can't remember the guy's name. That one came out years ago, and that one is also very good. If you want to read what feels at least like credible accounts, those are two good ones that I recommend. Is Alien Agenda by Jim Mars and Above Top Secret. Cannot remember the authors. I think it's multiple authors on that one. That the latter has some very good interviews with like ex-military people and stuff like that. Those are really good reads. However, I still haven't been convinced. And no, I don't, like, I definitely want to hear people's stories in the comments, but no, I don't want to hear like defensive screeds about like how you have to believe and this is why.
I love the dialogue. I love people if in the comments saying like, hey, I saw this, or I think that this was probably real. That's great, but you're not gonna.
And to be clear, and I'm also not saying like someone who believes they saw something. I'm not saying like, no, you're an idiot.
No, because I've told you too that I was like, that's weird. I mean, I probably know what it was, but it's still interesting.
I'm actually absolutely not slamming anyone who saw something and they can't explain what it is. All I'm saying is, okay, you saw something and can't explain what it is. Like that's a great story. But like, if you can't explain what it is, okay,
that doesn't mean that it's
just
little
means
gray people.
That just means like, okay, there are a vast number of answers that it could be. And yes, including possibly it could be an alien. That's true. That is technically one of the answers.
Right, that is true.
Yes. So there you have it.
All right.
Beam me up.